It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielson, Matt Kassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
All right, what's going on, everybody? 12:04 on a Tuesday, which means you're locked and loaded here with Two Guys and a Goalie on Edmonton Sports Talk. If you're not yet listening on the TuneIn app, it is free. You can download it, and one quick button, connect it to your vehicle, and you can listen to two guys while you're driving around at lunch, or if you're at the desk, of course, you can listen at www.edmontonsportstalk.com. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you feel free to slide on in and let us know what you're thinking about the mighty Edmonton Oilers. Gage or Cass, what's up, boys? How you doing?
Well, I smashed that like button already.
You did already? Oh, wow. So you're the one.
I smashed it.
I'm going to do that too. Boom. There we go. Gager, do you hit the like button yet?
I'll see how the episode goes first.
Okay. That's good. That's really funny, buddy. All right. So, look, we've got lots to discuss. But, I mean, I haven't seen you guys in a while. Anything new? Like, how was the weekend? What's up?
It was good. My wife had a big event on Saturday, so I didn't do the pre and post. Didn't get to watch the Oilers Tampa game. Just got to watch the highlights, but went really well. In recovery mode for a day or two, and then just all kinds of disappointment yesterday. All kinds of disappointment.
Wait, when you say in recovery mode, like you got a little banged up and
No.
Okay.
It was a full day and a lot of running around and sprinting around for me and just making sure that that any problems or issues were resolved immediately. So no, it was just like from a busyness recovery, not from that. No.
All right, Gager, what about you, buddy?
Better than that by now.
I know. That's why I was like, this seems weird. That's why I had to stop you and reset it. I was like, wait a second, what's going on here? What about you, Gager? You probably did get banged up.
No, I was responsible. Late nights with the races.
With the races,
so
yeah.
I was up late. Reorganized the fridge, the EST fridge.
I saw that.
Just jumped in. Thank God Costco was completely packed, and I just didn't know what to do on my afternoon, so I thought I would just come by and watch a period and a half with the boys.
And you organized the fridge. So what exactly did you do to our EST fridge? Because it looks like, did we not have the tall boys properly on the bottom shelf? Was that what was holding that fridge up?
Yeah, I took out the where you would put the fruits and veggies because surprisingly there was none in there, Dusty. I couldn't believe it. So I just took it right out of there and then used that extra space for tall boys.
That makes sense.
And then put the short and stubbies into another location. I think Iwanik's mad at me because I jumped the gun on the 6 o'clocker lager.
Did you have one?
Hid them in the back. I did have one.
Oh, you saw, man! I haven't even tried it yet. God, was
really?
it good?
I thought you guys would have.
No, we haven't tried it yet, man. Tell me. Was it good?
Am I allowed? I don't want Matt to.
Well, I mean, if it's not good, then don't say anything. But
no, it was really good, man.
Man.
It was crisp.
You're the first one to have one. Congratulations, Gager.
Yeah, it was great. It tasted a little bit heavier than a lager. To me.
Okay.
Maybe it was. I liked it. It was malty, very delicious, buddy. I figured it to be more of a summer kind of beer, but it's actually a good winter robust lager. I think you'll get a lot of people going to this in these cold, dark winter months to make themselves feel better.
You know what? That excites me because I'm not like a porter guy. Like I don't like stouts and like on occasion, whatever, but I don't really like that stuff. But that sounds tantalizing to me.
Yeah.
Like
you're going to like it, Cass.
Yeah. A little bit heavier than just a straight up, normal lager. So a little bit more to it, a little bit more mouthy, which is kind of like, I mean, that's 6 o'clocker, right?
Yes.
Keep it light, but still a little mouthy. So I'm excited. I'm excited to try it. I can't wait. Guys.
It's gonna be different than what your taste buds are expecting for sure. I said it tasted like an Alley Cat kind of log. Like it had that Alley Cat taste to me anyway. I don't know what maybe I just saw the label more and I was looking at it, but it did remind me of it. But it's a really good, and I'm not just saying that. I'd tell you it sucks.
Yeah. Well, like you said, you wait to see if the show deserves a thumbs up today. So
exactly.
you're okay spitting the truth. All right, you can message us anytime, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. And there's already text messages rolling in. Obviously, we got lots to discuss. The Edmonton Oilers continue to provide us with all these different things that we can hit on pretty much every single time. Did you guys see this spec Tim Peel thing? I know there's people in the nasty chat. Pretty greasy move to expose the DMs. Like, I understand that. Is it professional of spec to slide in and kind of get involved as well? Not really. Like, it just, I don't know. This whole thing seems unnecessary, doesn't it, Gager?
It's a bad look
for everybody,
for both guys that like clicks. So I just,
that's a good point.
I'm sure both of them don't mind it to a point because everyone's talking about them. But I mean, greasy from Tim Peel to do that. I don't know why Mark would come back at him like with what he had and have this little yelling match back and forth through text. It's sort of weird. I guess it takes some of the conversation off the Oilers, which is always good. We're talking about this instead. But to me, completely unnecessary. Tim Peel looking for something and getting it and then posting it on DMs. He's completely subbed himself for any sort of back and forth conversation with anyone with any sort of reputation at this point. It just seemed catty and worthless. But I read it, so I guess it did its job. And I clicked.
We read it.
We acted it out on the show this morning. I was specking. Eric was Tim Peel, and we had some fun with it that way. What do you think, Cass?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of with you, Gager. Like, I never minded Tim as a ref. I never got into it with him. I don't mind some of the things he says. I don't mind him disagreeing with Spector and not liking the question. Like, if you don't like the question and you want to say you didn't like the question, great. That's fine. You're entitled to do that. You're entitled to your opinion on it. I didn't like the posting of the DMs because it's like if you want to get into it with someone over that, that's fine. If you want to have a discussion or a disagreement and hash something out and say your piece, that's fine. That doesn't need to be posted. Like, disagree with it, like, just looking at it here again. Like,
I just don't know. Like, what was he trying to prove by posting?
It doesn't make him
you know
look
what
good.
I mean? Like,
it doesn't make him look good. Like,
no, why would you post it? It doesn't
just
make you
leave
look
it.
good doing
Just
it.
leave it. Like, you're not winning. No one's winning. No one on either side is winning when you post something like that. So I didn't like the look of that. I mean, again, maybe it takes a little pressure off the Edmonton Oilers because people are talking about this and not talking about another loss. But yeah, just keep. You know what? It's the old saying. It's like what happens in the locker room stays in the locker room, and it's that sort of thing where it's like if you got to hash out something with somebody like that, just keep it to yourself because you're not going to agree. You're not going to no one's changing anyone's mind in a DM conversation with this and posting it. Yeah. With that being said, I mean, I generally, if someone came at me like that with something, I'd just go the passive route.
Yeah.
And just all you need to reply is the letter O, the letter K, and a period. And then you just leave it. And then that's good enough. Just
and then press mute.
Yeah,
or
man. I mute.
Or just say thank you. Thanks.
I mute
thanks for the input.
Yeah.
Thanks for
well,
your
that
thoughts.
gets under their skin even more, right? Like,
well, but then you don't engage because
no, but that's what I mean. I like that. Like, it gets under their skin more because you're like, okay, thanks. And then you just ignore them after that.
And then you just ignore it. And if they keep throwing stuff, then you just.
But how bad is it that we're talking about this with a 35-year professional hockey writer and a former NHL official? Like, it's like we're talking about it with two 19-year-old kids,
like,
you know? Like,
I know. And like I said, all you needed to do for both sides was just say, okay, thanks, appreciate your thoughts, and just leave it. And if they come back again because they're mad and it gets under their skin, then just say, okay. Like, and just leave it. Like,
for anybody who's like, for anybody's like who doesn't even know what's going on, just quickly bring you up to date. Spec asked a question of McDavid about winning games 7-4, winning games 4-1 or whatever, And McDavid said, "Oh, you really like that question, don't you?" And then he kind of gave him a little bit of an answer. And then anyway, it gets clipped. It's thrown out. Everybody starts ripping and specking the Edmonton media again. And then Tim Peel does the same. Speck slides into his DMs and says, "Thanks for piling on, Tim. I'll remember that next time you F up." Well, it's a stupid question. Of course they'd like to win 4-1. And then Speck goes, "You refs never have the balls to answer a question for your shut-ass work, and you're critiquing me?" And then Peel goes, "Quit being so sensitive." And then Peel goes, "Grow some balls, Mark. Never played the game." Classic never played the game reference. And then being around it long enough to know a horse bleep ref when I see one, Tim. I've been very good to read for my whole career, 35 years. Thanks for noticing. And then Tim goes, "You've always been an effing fraud, buddy." So then Peel takes it, posts it, and tweets out, "This is what happens when you call it an Edmonton reporter for asking Connor McDavid if he'd rather win 4-1. An idiotic question. Of course they would. This is why some players don't want to play in Canada. Connor played his ass off tonight." So that's got 1.8 million views, which comes with the two screen grabs of their conversation. Then Frank Saravalli hops into the tweet and goes, "Hey, Tim, nice work tweeting out private convos. Oh, that's right. You couldn't spell class if I spotted you at the ASS. Paid any visits to berate teenagers in referee locker rooms recently? Remember that? Or did you drunk tweet it and delete it like usual?" And then Peel goes back at Frank and says, "Oh, that hurt, Frank. Your buddy Spector's been in the business for 35 years. I'm sure he can fight his own battles. He messaged me because you guys want everyone else to be held accountable except yourselves when you ask ridiculous questions. No wonder players want out of Canada." And, that's about it. So that's the recent conversation. And as we said, I was joking around the boys today that, if the Oilers just play better, none of this happens. The Oilers playing poorly has led to things being cranked up a little bit of another notch here. So we've now got, when seasons go the way they have, you have all these interesting moments along the way that you sort of mark on the timeline. And Speck versus Peel has taken the cake for November 20th/21st. So that's, everybody needs to kind of
away
grow
from
up in
the
that situation.
Galchenyuk bolognese sauce.
Yeah, well,
real
geez.
human liver.
That guy's never going to be seen from again. And I'm only partially kidding. He might never be seen from again. So, that was tough luck. Tough luck for everybody involved. And I get it. You don't like people criticizing your work. I understand that. Hell, I've criticized Speck's work, and he slid into my DMs, for goodness sakes. But I said this morning on our show, Speck and I would say Speck and I are buddies, but we've also gone at it a few times. This doesn't feel like two guys who are buddies, and one of them just decided enough was enough. So, yeah, interesting times. But what it has done, it's taken 17 minutes to get to the hockey game. So you guys are right. Like, it has taken the spotlight away from the Edmonton Oilers. Cass, let's start with you, man. 2-0 lead, and then it's not like. I don't even know. I know they want to hold on to the lead, but they don't play like they want to hold on to the lead,
Yeah, well, it's just they just do it to themselves again. And I don't want to berate Evander Kane because I think he's been really good for the most part the last number of games. Like, he's been one of the few guys that has consistently been pretty active and buzzing and physical and involved in scoring, and like he's played well, but takes a penalty that was completely unnecessary, that isn't going to help your team at all, and the penalty kill can't get the job done. And all of a sudden, Florida has a momentum, and you're scrambling, and you're on your heels, and before you know it, the game's tied, and you just blew a 2-goal lead. I kind of feel like Matthias Ekholm, and then it's like I don't know what the problem is, and for everyone that was upset with Spector's question. It's like, well, what else are you going to ask at this point? Like, it's been time and time again, the same thing over and over and over again. Like Connor McDavid had a haunted look on his face. I think I said last night, like, he looked like he saw a ghost in the room or something, because it was just like, I don't know what to say. And Matthias Ekholm saying, I don't know what to say. If I knew what the problem was, I would fix it. And there's conversations on the puck luck. And yes, I get two bounces, one off a guy in front of the net that goes in, one where a guy steps on a stick. But it's just like, you got to work for your bounces. You got to work for your bounces, because those wouldn't even be. I mean, tell me the puck luck thing, and go that route. If you've won a whole bunch of games and then you lose one, unfortunately, because of that. But it's just been so inconsistent with their play, and inside of games inconsistent, where it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch. Like it's painful. And I don't know what to say anymore, guys. And even talking, like it was another, like, I mean, we had a lot to talk about, I guess, at the, in the post-game show, but it's just like, it feels like it's Groundhog Day. Like we're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And it's just, you're trying to change what you can. The group is trying to change what they can, but they just can't get it done. They just can't get it done.
Gage, is that maybe the most concerning thing, is that like we're sitting here as members of the media and some as fans going, I just don't have any answers. But so are those guys. Like the team itself is like, man, I don't know what to say. I don't know what's going on. Like to me, that's got to be concerning. Or maybe it's just because they've had to say the same answer for 6 weeks now, and they don't know what to say because they've already came up with every unique answer they could. Where do you come out on this, Gager?
Well, it's very difficult to put your finger on it, because we point out these little things each game. It's gotten to the point where, I just focus game to game, right? Because that's basically the mantra that they're probably have in their dressing room, as well as shift at a time, game at a time, period at a time, all those little cliches. But to me, it boils down to certain situations through the game where they're not thinking on the right side of the puck. They're constantly looking to increase their lead or looking to offense, right? And
yes,
that's how this team's built. That's just in their nature. You watching that last 15 minutes of the game, it looked like the Oilers were enjoying playing hockey because they just were able to push the whole time. That's how they want to play. They just want to push the pace, take chances, try to score goals. And when you see them with the 2-0 lead, I mean, Cass, you brought it up. Kane, who's been arguably their best player, takes a penalty that's unnecessary. The first goal, you get, you can pick it apart, but it was quite good movement from the Panthers. And then you get Darnell Nurse in between, trying to do too much again, right? Going down, screening the goalie, can't see the puck, doesn't block the shot. And then the second one, that's again good movement, but Pickard, that's one he probably should have, right? Goes right through him. So just missed opportunities, giving the team life when you're, they were dominating in that first bit, and the goals everyone seemed to be going, and then it just that snowball of mistakes happening, not good play, not physical enough. It has to come from the room itself. There's nothing else you can do aside from these players getting it back together. And if that's the most concerning thing, Dusty, is they don't have the answers, and they're the ones that have to fix this. I don't care if they could have 10 coaches on the bench. They're not going to fix this unless they have a recognizing the certain situation during a game that, I have to stay back and stay above the puck. And they just don't do that consistently enough to be successful.
Cass, if they haven't got that yet, are they ever going to get that?
It's a good question. You would think that some of the playoff experience and playing in those type of games would have lent itself to understanding how to play like that. But it's almost the mentality of, we just got to make it to the playoffs and we're going to be good, or we're fine, or we're just going to go play and we're going to have success, seems to just be stuck in there. Just be stuck in there. Or maybe it was stuck in there, and now that they didn't have success, they're so fragile that the second something doesn't go their way, they can't find a way to play through it. They can't find a way to stick with it. They can't. And I think one of the questions last night was on resiliency, and it's just like, and I think it was McDavid. I can't remember which reporter asked.
Yeah, no, McDavid. He said, no, we're still resilient. It's not resiliency. Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
But I don't like. Is this a resilient group? It doesn't, from a confidence standpoint, it doesn't look like it right now. Yeah, I don't like it. This is something that they should have figured out at this point, because they should know and they should have seen and experienced in losing to teams that have played that way in the playoffs. You'd hope that some of that would rub off. But I mean, and I've heard it time and time again, and I don't know what you guys think of this, but I mean, we talk, or Oilers fans talk about how Edmonton beating Calgary in the playoffs 2 years ago broke the Flames.
Killed the Flames. Yeah, broke the Flames.
Yeah. And I've heard there's been a lot of people that have chimed in either on the text line or the nasty chat that have said the same thing of Vegas and Edmonton, where Vegas broke Edmonton last year with that win, because they expected to win, they wanted to win, and they didn't win. And now they're kind of like, I don't know, lost. But this doesn't feel like a resilient group. It doesn't feel like a group, Gager, like you said, that understands how to play or how to shift your style of play when you have a lead. Now, you don't want teams to completely take their foot off the gas. Like, you don't want to completely change what makes you successful as a team when you have the lead. But you also need to ensure that you're doing things responsibly. And that's something they just haven't seemed to be able to grasp this season.
Yeah, no, that's the $1 million question, is why is that subtle thinking of playing hot with a lead? And we're not saying go into the complete defensive shell, right? This is still, high tempo without the puck, just as intense as when you do have it. The one thing I wanted to ask you, Cass, like Vinny Darnay's had 2 fights, and the one take at a certain time, where was it the proper time to do that? And even last night, he gets in that fight, but it's at the end of a shift where he can't really. To me, he didn't really do as good a job as he did the previous night. Were those 2 kind of periods of a game where maybe it was you should have deferred to later on and get your team more jacked up? Because he really, I mean, I heard you talking about, just wasn't technically sound in either of those kind of fights of what he could kind of do.
No, but when you're not going to do it all the time, you're not going to be incredibly technically sound. And for a big guy, if I'm looking at that fight yesterday, it's like, well, no, he didn't stretch him out at all. Now, he was at the end of a shift. Like, he was exhausted. Yeah. And that can bag you.
Why take it at that point then?
What you're trying to do, like, it makes it a lot more difficult. I didn't mind the timing of the fight yesterday. I didn't mind the timing of that. The challenge is even if you're at the end of the shift, if you're a big guy and you're fighting a guy that's smaller and you're trying to turn the momentum, I mean, you got to win that fight. Like, you can't have it be a situation where it's just like, oh, our little guy or littler guy just beat up your big guy. Like, because you don't get any of the momentum or the fire, and maybe it sparks a little bit of something on the bench just showing up, and sometimes that can work. But I mean, if I look at that moment, though, that's not the moment where I'm like, oh, the momentum swung. If I look back to that other game, I think that was Vancouver, was it not? Coming up ice against Vancouver, was that game?
Yeah.
I think it was Joshua. And that one I didn't like the timing of. And I remember thinking about the timing of that one, and we didn't like the timing of it. I didn't like the timing of it. I didn't think it was necessary. This one is like a heat of the moment. You're battling a guy in front of the net, and he's cross-checking you, you're cross-checking him, and then it just happens. So I didn't mind the timing of this one. I don't put that on Vinny. Again, from a technical standpoint, there was a lot he could have done better in the fight from a size standpoint and how he was using his feet and that. But I don't expect guys to necessarily get that, because that's not the game anymore. But I mean, I don't know. I don't want to harp on Vinny for engaging in that situation, because I don't think the timing was bad.
Nielson, Gage, and Cass with you here on Two Guys and a Goalie. You can text us anytime at Edmonton Sports Talk, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. And, of course, you can hit us up anytime in the nasty chat. There's a lot of good comments in the nasty chat that we're certainly going to get to. And they kind of all circle back around to, here, Brent. This ties into what you kind of brought up, Cass. I'm going to get to this one from Brent. He says, how did this go so bad so fast? Is there like a specific game, trip, or homestand that seemed to trigger it all? And that kind of ties back into your thing that you brought up about Vegas killing the Oilers last year to the point where they've never really been able to sort of get back on track. Do you? And then I saw somebody else. Penner's Pancake gets in here and says, sorry, like 92% of the team is the same team that went 14-0-1 down the stretch. Bukestad, definitely, that's a huge loss when you have to compare it to McLeod. Klim Kostin bought some energy and heart, but that doesn't cause a massive, massive nosedive in this situation. So, I mean, if they didn't, and I know, I think I tweeted, I was like, did the Vegas break the Oilers? And people say, no, that's ridiculous. But I'm trying to figure out what else broke the Oilers along the way, because in 13 games, you got your head coach fired this season, which seems pretty quick for a team that's supposed to win the Stanley Cup. So where do you guys think it went off the rails here? Is it simply, do you buy into the fact that maybe Vegas did completely destroy them?
I go to the opening weekend. I mean, we were all saying this is 4 points and they're going to crush the Canucks. And the Canucks are this year a completely different team. To be smacked 8-1, then come back with the rematch game and get the other goalie has a great game and you end up losing that game as well. I think that was, and okay, it's just the weekend, but we've got a lot of time. The urgency to get things back on track wasn't a top priority right from the beginning of the year, right? Because there was always, we've got time. It's only 2 games.
Yeah, there was a little bit of the joking, like, remember Kane was like, we're dead last. Like, yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, and then it was like, oh my gosh, we're 10 games in and we haven't done anything yet. It happened quick. And I think just because of those first 2 games of the year not going the way they expected and having to field questions about what's going on a regular basis, it just snowballed into what you see on the ice now, Dusty.
Yeah, I was going to say that first game of the season. And it just snowballed from there where I think there was apathy about it, that we're going to be fine. This is fine. We're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a dramatic...
You sort of assumed it was going to be fine, right? That's what they did.
Just assumed it was going to be fine. But it's like, we assume that the goalies are going to make the save. We assume that pass isn't going to go through. We assume everyone's going to have their assignment. Like, just, the assumptions abound. And I think that's what did it. Patrick in a nasty chat says McDavid injured. I think it was already, at that point, they had already lost so many games. Like, did that factor into it? Yeah, partially, I think, because it's factored into McDavid's ability to take over a game. But that wasn't the turning point. I mean, the turning point to me was that first 8-1 loss, where we got to go back to it and say, okay, how do they react to that? Not just the game in and of itself, because blowouts do happen, but in a game where you had every instinct and motivation that should have been driving you to have a night, to be in it, even if you lose the game, but to be engaged in that game. And there was just no engagement. There was just a plethora of mistakes and bad play. And to me, it just snowballed. It just snowballed. I want to jump back just because I want to ask you guys this question, because I think it's an important question, or something to think about. And me and Tommy talked about a little bit about the dressing room and the team and the functioning of the team behind closed doors when we're not there, when media's not there, not asking them questions. And we talked about this a little bit, but Penner's Pancakes, to throw back to that, where he said this is like 92% of the same roster. Bukestad's gone, Kostin's gone, Yamamoto's gone. I have seen teams dramatically shift with the departing of one player. I've been on teams, even if it wasn't like the guy that was going to be he wasn't your best player, wasn't the goal scoring player, but I've seen teams that have shifted with that. Do you think?
Yes, Puljujarvi. That's what happened. You're right.
Yes,
I knew it.
JP, he was the guy.
Sorry, I had to jump the gun before you laid out the options. I had to.
No, but that's fine. I just wanted to say, do you think, because you need buffer guys in dressing rooms, you need glue guys in dressing rooms, you need certain personalities that have the ability to pull people together. Do you think in losing those guys, do you think that they lost that? And is that something that has factored into this slide?
What do you think, Gager?
It's a valid point, Cass. You gotta, we always talked about, well, I'm just gonna single out Yamamoto. Everyone liked playing with him. You got a pretty honest effort from him every single night. You had responsible positional defensive play.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Not a lot of finish.
I talk about that all the time, and everyone's like, yeah, I know he's not scoring and he needs to bury his chances, but he was always in the right position defensively, something that's not the case. Anyways, continue, Gager.
Yeah, and a guy that consistently played the Woodcroftism, playing the equipment of the other team. You know, he was annoying. He was a mosquito out there, and likable in the room too. You know, it seemed like you'd see him or whatever, guys would be laughing, he'd be telling jokes and things like that. And like on the after games in the Hall of Fame room with Connor, and they're all yelling Connor, and he leans in and goes, "Those are for me, actually.
Yeah,
those aren't for you." You know, just lighthearted. And Kostin as well, just the funny Russian in the room. You know how funny it is when I start speaking Russian. It brings us all closer together, right? And so, you know, it could be a little bit of that. And that the glue guys, they are glue. Like they bring people from other sides all together and keep everyone loose and happy and maybe just a little bit of lightheartedness, right? So yeah, we know that Connor and Leon, by all accounts, they're not the most vocal guys. You know, they're not the rah guys, and maybe just not having that extra "let's go, boys" and high fives. Just they're missing something, because they're missing something big time.
Can I throw a theory at you guys? Not a theory, but a thought.
Could be a theory, right? You never know.
Could be a theory. Yeah. So statistically. And this was Jason Spezza and Kyle Turris told me this, so I haven't gone and verified it. But Jason Spezza and Kyle Turris told me this years and years ago when I was playing in Ottawa, and I believe them. Spezza was a hockey nerd, like statistics nerd, paid attention to everything, and he always said, and I've talked about this before, that statistically speaking, the year after guys have their first baby is generally their worst year of their career, statistically speaking. For
goalies, for just goalies, or for all players?
All players. His was for offensive players.
Yeah.
I mean, that was for point production. Speaking about offensive players, and I've adapted it to say I think it can affect goalies too. There were a lot of babies born on this team. Do you think that? And grasping for straws here in some ways, but do you think that factors into it as well?
Well, remember when Cam Talbot had the twins? That was after his amazing year.
He was awesome when he had them. Then the next year,
because
he was terrible.
But think about the situation. He had him right before playoffs. You're going to have family in town. You're going to have people coming to help. You're going to be focused on playoffs. You know, your spouse is going to be like, no, just go do what you need to do. I know there's a lot. I'm going to take care of it. Like, we're going to get you your sleep. We're going to get this. We're going to get that. But then you have the summer. And in the summer, when you're not playing games, all of a sudden you start to actually establish the habits and the parenting roles and the responsibilities, and all of a sudden, you know, heading into the season, your whole day has changed at home or even on the road too. Your responsibilities have changed, and it's like, well, no, the adjustment doesn't come that middle of playoffs or that before the playoffs, because you know, you have help around you and you have certain expectations that you're not going to be, let's call it, as present in those moments, because you're focused on your job and you're focused on your career at that time. And then you adjust through the summer, and then it's different for the year. To me, again, it's something where it's like, I don't think it's the sole reason.
Yeah,
I don't think
but if you built a team of eunuchs, it could be a lot better, right? Look, man, I've had kids now for 8 years. I've been extremely exhausted the entire time. Like, it's just how it is being a parent. Now, it's funny because I was in a cab with Matt Dunnigan a couple weeks ago, and I said, you know, Matt, I said, when I get on the road, that's the only time I really get good sleep. Like, it's just that simple. Like, as busy as I am during the CFL season, I get the best sleep when I'm on the road. Now that I'm home with the kids, it's like I get up early to do this job, and then on the weekend the kids are up and everything. And he goes, yeah, man. He goes, it's funny. He goes, like on teams, like the vets, you get on the road and the guys will be like, hey, come on. He goes, Matt said as soon as he had kids, it was just like, no, that's the end of that. Like, you guys go and have fun. I got to get some sleep. Like, people got to be absolutely exhausted. Justin of Belgoni in the Nasty Chat says, I blame my kids for my failures as well. So, I mean, obviously life does change. But Leon Draisaitl didn't have a kid, and he scored 2 goals in his last 13. Connor McDavid didn't have a kid this year, and he's not even remotely close to the top 30 in NHL scoring. So, Gage, there might be a bit to it, but what are you supposed to do? Just not trade for parents? Like, or have parents on the team? Like,
they need better childcare or hire Nanny McPhee.
Nanny McPhee. Nice Nanny McPhee reference, yeah.
Well, yeah, so maybe that'll do it. Yeah, no, it is a definite shift in your normal
life,
routine, right? It just, I mean, I don't remember a time before children. It was a fairy tale of how easy that was, right? Like, I used to get upset that I had to go to the bank once for half an hour. I'd have to go home and have a nap after, so yeah, there is subtle changes, but still, come on. Like, like you said, you get on the road, you get those pregame meals and those big fluffy pillows in the nicest hotels. Yeah, their road record should be awesome then.
I was going to say, it's not like their road record's spectacular either. Like,
no, to me, it's just like it's like another thing, right? It's like if you're another factor or potential factor that you could have. Joe Segreto, Oilers fans chase players out of town, then say they sure could use a guy like the guy we chased out of town. A little
ball of
and to an extent, I'll agree with them. But I don't want to say I don't think Yamamoto was chased out of town. I don't think.
Well, Yamamoto was just a cap casualty. If they could have afforded Yamamoto would still be an Edmonton Oiler, man.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, he was a cap casualty. That wasn't a guy.
Costin would be too, I would say.
If they could have afforded these guys, I think, and Bukestad for sure. Bukestad would have been like the first one, I would think, if they could have afforded them. So the Oilers have 5 wins, 2 against Seattle, not a great team by any stretch, not in the playoffs right now. Islanders, same thing. Nashville, same thing. Calgary, same thing. So they have not beaten what I would describe as, a good NHL team yet this year. So Cass, like, are the Oilers? I don't know. Are you at a point yet where you're like, the Oilers are just a bad team? Because it is almost American Thanksgiving. It's almost 2 months into the season. Are they a bad team, or are they just like a middle-ish team that is making some critical errors right now? I don't think anybody views them as the great team that we thought they should be. But where are you? Like, what's the reality check on these guys right now?
Well, I heading into the season, I expect them to be the best or one of the best teams in the West. It's so hard because I can't say I think they're a bad team because there's too many weapons. The potential is there. I would say, oh man, that's a tough one because I don't really know how to answer it because it's like they're for as much and as many struggles that they've had, it's like a switch could still flip. Now I don't know what flips it. I don't know if that happens. But this is a group that still has a potential to go on a 14-0-1 run. And so it's like that's a hard thing. So they have been they're a really good team that has been playing like a really bad team.
So you still think they're really good? Like, you still think there's a really good team in there somewhere?
I think, yeah, of course. Yes. Is there a really good team in there? Yes. Will they be able to find themselves in time to save the season? I don't know.
Gager, what do you think?
A really good team that has been playing like a really bad team.
It's a tough question, man. It really is. I mean, because everything, if we didn't have Stanley Cup expectations for the group, if they were like already a middling team and they started this way, we'd say they're a terrible hockey team. But I said this morning to Cass, kind of like Cass, I was just like, I feel like there's got to be a better team in there. Is there the one team that we thought lost to Vegas in what could have been the Stanley Cup final last year? I'm not sure that team still exists, but I also don't think they're just a bad hockey team.
No, they're not a bad hockey team because the games that they play against some of these good teams, they're jumping out to leads, right? And they're causing their own destruction by poor decisions without the puck, like that are fixable problems. But I don't know. I hate to say it, Dusty, but as of right now, I don't see them making the playoffs, right? Like They're a team that's almost 20 games in here.
The only option is a wild card spot. They're not tracking down any of those teams at the top of the
No, they're not. They can't get in. So they're looking, and that's everything tightens up too, right? Like it's going.
Like it's tough to make up that. It's tough to make up that space, right? Like,
every night's going to get more difficult and harder and harder and hard. And what they're going to have to do for the rest of the season is play at a level that we haven't seen yet, right? Like it's.
Well, they're going to have to go on a 14-0-1 run.
Yeah.
I mean, you do that, all of a sudden you're in the picture again.
But I don't think they can do that, Kat.
I don't think they can do that either. I think they might be capable of stringing 5 or 6 together, but I don't see them going on a 15-game heater.
No, to a man, they're not. No one's playing well enough for them to go on a run like that, and they can't have a handful. They need everyone, like chipping in whatever their role is on the team, playing at their highest level. The guys that we thought that would make that they needed to have take steps this year, and I look at just on the back end, and I include Bouchard in this area. He needed to take a step. Broberg definitely did. Desharnais, I would hope that he would, and he looks okay. You know, he's not the same defenseman that he was when he was called up last year. And like those are 3 guys that needed to be integral parts of them to be successful. And look, it's there's just too many mistakes, and the goaltending's a big thing. It's very average, you know. They're making some saves, but there hasn't been one game this year where there's been a goal allowed where the goalie wouldn't like that one back, right? There's been some that are unstoppable, yes. But there hasn't been. They've always just added one goal that should have been stopped this year, and those are killers.
Tommy Gazzola slides into the nasty chat, says they're a bad hockey team with good players. Said it on the Hangout. Now that might be a good way to kind of look at it right now, and I don't even know how you describe the decision makers up top as part of that group as well. Connor in the nasty chat says, so if they play amazing sound hockey and go on an absolute heater, they might push for a wild card. And that's pretty much about it right now. Now, we've had a bunch of good texts coming up. I'm trying to save them. We still got about 15 minutes left here in Two Guys and Goalie today. Dustin Nielson, Joaquin, Gage, Matt Kassian with you. You can text us anytime, 780-218-9999. Coach Mike asked this question a little bit earlier on. I find it kind of interesting. Are you watching this team? Here it is. Is anybody playing guilty on the Oilers? Have you guys seen a coach bump so far? That's in from Coach Mike. What do you think about that?
Nope. Nope. No coach.
What do you mean guilty? Like hungover?
No, I think guilty for getting
a guy fired because they always want to say that, right?
That. No. I don't see any difference from the coach. That still boggles the mind what they did there to me. A complete sideways move. It didn't make any sense whatsoever. It would be great to get Woodcroft on it and have him just.
I'm sure they must have made him sign an NDA.
Yes. But I would like to hear what he would have to say, like, or if he's even watching the games or not. But I mean, from looking at his face and now Coach Garlick here, like it's almost no one has the answers, you know. No one has. We got to do this. We got like you hear when another coach comes in. I look at Tocchet last year, right? Like when he went to Vancouver, he had like 5 points with this team. They were too soft. We're this. We don't play hard enough, right? Like. No one's saying we need to do this better. We need to do. It's just we need to play 60 minutes. Well, yeah, of course, but it's not zeroing in on the actual problems of what's causing these things to happen for the team, and you're just kicking the ball down the road.
Somebody pointed out that hey, Gager Bouchard has taken a step. He's a point per game guy. I think he was just kidding. I think he was just kidding on that one. Let's see here. Let's just get to this text. It comes in from Hontorio Momes. Boys, sorry about the length, but fudge me. This year is the ultimate test of fanhood. That game feels like the entire season so far. Cats are cats, dogs are dogs. People are fighting over players, coaches, systems, but at the end of the day, this goes right up to the top. It's about organizational philosophy, and that is hopefully going to be fixed by Jeff Jackson. Who are the Oilers' top 3 best defensive forwards? Who are the Oilers' top 3 best defensive defensemen? I don't know about you, but I have a hard time naming more than one for each. The roster is imbalanced. Everybody wants to be a goal scorer. Who are the guys that want to shut guys down? Until they bring in players who pride themselves on earning paychecks through defensive play, this team won't win. You can hope all of you want, but this is a mature roster. These players are set. You can dress your cat nose to tail as a dog, but at the end of the day, it's still a cat. So there's a lot to sort through. He's basically saying, like, and I laid it out this morning, like, they can say, oh, no, we want to win games 3-1, 3-2, and we talked about it earlier in this episode. There's no bone in their body that actually is capable of doing that, right? Like, this is a team. It's Craig Button today. Craig Button said, well, he tore down a strip off of Bouchard, and then I said, is it time? Is there going to be a trade here to try to get this thing back on track? And he kind of said, you need to trade for a hard-nosed defensive forward that will come in and block a shot with his dick if he has to. You know what I mean? Like the Matt Hendricks broken cup thing. Cass, do you think, is that where this goes next? Like, or do you just sort of be like, we made the coaching change, we believe in this group, we're going to have to ride it out here? Or do you give up a really good draft pick and somebody take Ryan McLeod and try to bring in a third-line center that'll defend for you?
Yeah. Well, a few things I want to address from that text, and then I'll jump into what you just asked. First is it made me think of a great quote by an author by the name of Ben Stewart that said, you can put a bow tie on a turd, but it's still a turd. So similar mindset. So made me giggle in my heart. I mean, hey, if you could move out Ryan McLeod and a pick and bring in someone that was that hard-nosed third-line centerman, I would do it.
There's no reason not to at this point.
No, there's no reason not to. The challenge is going to be that teams know the situation you're in. And the asking price, because of the situation, is going to be astronomical. So what type of pick is that going to look like? Like what type, like what are you going to have to give up here in order to make it work with the cap and to actually bring someone in that fits that bill? And who's going to be willing to trade a good piece like that from their bottom six? I don't know. I mean, if you could do it, and if it was out there, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Absolutely. I just don't know that that's out there.
You need to, unfortunately, I think, unless McLeod really changes his game to drastically, it doesn't matter about playoffs. I mean, if you're facing the Kings, you can't go up against those three centers with McDavid and Draisaitl on one line, and then they're just coming back.
You'll get eaten alive
guys.
by the rest of that group. Yeah.
And like Dubois, like that's the thing. I was looking at Dubois going up against McLeod. That's a complete mismatch, and there's too much depth to get out of the Pacific. Yeah, I mean, geez, the Canucks playing the Canucks, you can't do that either.
Well, I mean,
the way he's playing, it doesn't match up in the division they're in. They're not getting out of it.
Didn't Tkachuk say last night, take that game to the alley, like prior to the game? Maybe one that you got to kind of take to the alley. And as this text came in, they didn't have their name on it, but they're texting in, so we appreciate that. 780-218-9999. We've got about 8 minutes left here, and two guys in a goalie today. At this point, it's not a skill issue, it's a will issue. Nurse, Kane, and Ekholm had 10 of the Oilers' 15 hits. 8 of the 11 forwards had 0. In a game in which Matthew Tkachuk boldly stated that we're going to have to take it to the alley here against the Oilers, 8 of the 11 forwards did not have a hit in the hockey game. And, I mean, McLeod is the poster boy for this, because the only way you can trade McLeod is if there's a team out there who's looking for a guy who skates really fast, doesn't produce, and wouldn't hit a fly if it landed on his nose. So, I mean, I don't see a team being like, yeah, finally, Oilers are going to let McLeod go. We'll take him. Like, that's not out there right now. So That's why they're in such a tough spot. Like, this is another follow-up I had here. If they go winless on this trip, guys, what happens? Like, what are you supposed to do at that point? You already fired the coach. You go ahead. I know some people in the postgame last night I was watching with you guys, Cass. There was everybody in there calling for Ken Holland's head. But I mean, Ken Holland is just if you were going to fire Ken Holland, he'd already be gone. He's not making decisions here anymore. Jeff Jackson's going to have the final call on everything. So Ken Holland is, to me, Ken Holland at this point is a non-factor, essentially. So that's not going to happen. So the only thing I can think of is if they lose 4 here, there's going to be a huge overreaction for a deal, which they're probably going to get taken to the cleaners on, and you'll just have to hope and pray that it works, and that's a scary position to be in a year where you're supposed to be a contender.
Well, and how do you move anyone too? Like for this to, it would have to be NBA-esque kind of deal, Dusty, because one person coming back the other way isn't.
Well, first of all, it's impossible. It's impossible anyway, right? Because you have to send people. Like, you can't just add to this roster. You have to change the roster, which might not be the worst thing in the world, but nobody's going to want to help the Edmonton Oilers, man. Like, it's just, nobody ever wants to help anybody else, but certainly not this team right now.
If they don't win a game on this trip, it's, I think the season, like, playoff hopes are pretty much dashed, right? Like, that's the hole is just getting deeper and deeper. I don't think a trade helps at all, because you'd have to change the complete structure of the team.
Yeah, because they
change what's going
on.
Right,
Cats, the issues that we're talking about with this team are kind of deeper core issues. So how is a fringe trade going to actually change that? It's not, right?
No, a fringe trade doesn't. This team has identity issues. I mean, who are we? What are we? It makes me think of the one Zoolander clip. Like, he's just staring up the sky, like, who am I? I don't know.
They don't go winless on this trip, though, do they?
I don't know. I told Tommy they needed to be, really heading into it, they needed to be three points above 500 on this trip. You're playing some good teams.
Yeah, and that's gone, right? So now the best they can do is 500. So.
And what's really bad is they should have won both these games. Really. They should have been able to lock that down, get that third goal last night. They had the lead in Tampa that got away from them. They should have won both these games. Like, if you're going to take anything out, I guess. But
what's the most significant difference? We'll get to this. What's the most significant difference between this team with Knoblauch and this team with Woodcroft? What have you guys? Is there anything?
There is none.
There's nothing.
There is none. The post-game interviews are even the same. Like,
post-game interviews are actually a little bit more boring.
Knoblauch. I mean, he's not. He's very similar temperament-wise to Jay Woodcroft. Like, you can't go in and change everything. Can't go in and, he said this on the post-game show last night. We've talked about it before. This wasn't. You're not going in to change Bruce Boudreau. Rick Tocchet going from man-on-man defense to, no, we're going to play zone defense. Like, you're not making those big changes. You don't have the ability to make those big changes as a coach coming in. So it's just, I don't think anything has changed, really. Small things. I mean, if he's going to implement some of the bigger things, you can't do that on the fly. You got to start that with training camp as much. Like, it's you don't have the time. You don't have the time or the luxury of the time. If you were a team in a rebuild, heading into a rebuild without Stanley Cup aspirations, well, yeah, you know what? You're going to be able to change it over time on the fly and take 10, 15 games to do that. But for the Oilers, you don't have that. You don't have the luxury of time to do that. So you can't see big changes, or you're not going to see big changes.
Gage, you notice anything?
He announces the starting goalie at the day of the game. That's cool, kind of cool.
It is interesting that they brought in a guy who's even softer spoken than Jay Woodcroft when we talk about a room that needing accountability. And I know, accountability doesn't mean screaming at everybody and taking shots at everybody in the media, but it doesn't come across as a guy who went in and grabbed the room by the balls and was like, okay, here's what we have to do. So we'll see how it works out. It should be good. It will be at Boston Pizza, Kingsway Boston Pizza on Wednesday for the pregame. You can come watch the game with the Edmonton Sports Talk crew, and then Tommy and Cass will have postgame from there as well. And hey, if you're gonna watch a hockey game, win or lose, you might as well do it having a couple of drinks and a delicious bite to eat at Boston Pizza. So we got that going for us.
No better place. I can say this from experience for your kids, because
bugs and cheese, man.
Though they do it right.
Yeah,
you got lids on you get some juice. They got lids.
The coloring,
or milk or water.
Yeah,
it's clutch.
I would say
for the kids.
that if you were to test my kid's blood, it'd be about 7% bugs and cheese. They love it. Every time Elizabeth, hey Lizzie, what do you want for dinner? Order out Boston Pizza. Like it's her go-to. So yeah, it should be a good time, and we'll see how the Edmonton Oilers look against the Carolina Hurricanes. Thank you very much for all of the comments on the Nasty Chat, all the text messages today as well. 780-218-9999. We'll continue to get you ready for that game tomorrow with the Nielsen Show at 6 o'clock right here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Nielsen Show replays coming up right away as well. Hangout tomorrow with Dave Jameson is going to be on the Hangout, so that's exciting. Lock Shop will actually have some hockey games to bet on, and we'll start to set up that triple header in the National Football League as well. And then the Oil Stream to get you ready for the Oil Stream pregame show, which will be happening just 2.5 hours later. So lots going on tomorrow on Edmonton Sports Talk. Cass, Gager, great chat today, boys. Good catching up with you.
I'm hitting the thumbs up.
Ah, my man. Great episode. We'll talk to you tomorrow.